Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast. And today's guest, we're going to talk about a very important issue in today's society, and that is cybersecurity, how to protect yourself, how to recognize it, how to be proactive, and how to not victimize by the ever increasing sophisticated scams that are widespread. So I've got Brett Gallant, and he's coming out of the Northeast, and he has a passion for keeping businesses safe from cyber. And I'm happy to welcome. So Brett, welcome.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here with you today. And you're right. I have a passion for helping business manage their risk because after all, it is their risk. And if my why is this, if any of this information I know it will impact your audience, if I have inspired you to take action, because that's what it's all about. And I know I've done my job.
Yeah. And I really love that. And one thing that really struck me, because I was reading an article the other day, and it was talking about how governments and countries, the type of war has pivoted from kinetic to now cyber and digital war. So everything is artificial intelligence, bots, it could be drones, but less and less are like tanks and physical military. And so talk about, and people are not even aware of this. Talk about the growing need for public awareness around cybersecurity.
It's I was mentioning to you right before we started the recording, the cyber pandemic. No, not enough people are talking about it, and we all know, even though it's not reported, that people are getting hacked. Correct?
Oh
Would you
yeah.
say that's true? So unfortunately, it's being underreported. But I can tell you that there's so much devastation happening, and we live in a world and society now that unfortunately, we have some of our employees that are living from paycheck to paycheck, and they're two paychecks from being homeless. Sometimes the stats I've seen. So, what we have to be aware of is that the cyber criminals don't care and they have a mission. And what they want to do is take as much data and as possible and impact your business and your livelihood. And they do that sometimes without even being aware. Oftentimes they're on your systems for up to 120 days. And what do you think they're doing during that time? They're watching how you work, watching how you communicate, downloading all your data, and then they strike. And then they make a devastating impact. And I do a presentation when I public speak, and my topic is you can't get hacked in your pajamas because you've already been hacked and you don't even know it. Today's cyber reality is that we can no longer keep our head stuck in the sand like an ostrich. We need to be aware, and we need to ask these three words to ourselves: what's my plan? What's your plan? And what am I doing to foster a culture of at least talking about cybersecurity in our organizations?
Mhm. Yeah. And what really struck to me, because I believe it was last year, it was like March of last year, where United Healthcare got hacked. It was like the biggest healthcare hack, and like their systems went down. And for example, my wife's a pharmacist. They couldn't push through scripts, discharge scripts, and it was like a big hack. And like it didn't even make the news. It was just like they were talking about some random event. And
Yeah,
so
but we're talking about livelihoods of people. I presented in a pharmacy association actually in October, and here I'm in Canada, and in our country, towards the end of last year, London Drugs, a major pharmacy chain,
mm,
was down for a week. So, what happens when the drugs don't ship? What happens when somebody that's counting on blood pressure medication or COPD and whatnot can't get their medication? The reputational damage is unreal and it's affecting lives.
mm, yeah. So what are some common hacking scams that people need to be aware of, and how can people protect themselves?
I use this analogy when I'm presenting a cybersecurity risk review. And do you remember that TV show, The Weakest Link? There was, there's this, so the weakest link. Here's the biggest thing that I want to impact on your audience. The weakest link oftentimes is your people, okay? Because they can enable a cyber attack. So
Mm.
What the biggest thing takeaway I want your audience to realize, cybersecurity awareness training is imperative so your team knows what to look for. And
Mhm.
so some of the things you want to be looking for is, hey, is my computer slower than usual, or not things popping up that I haven't seen, or did I click on something and I said, no, I don't really need to report that because nothing happened. You need to report that, because what happens when you're end user or you click on something, you're not seeing what's happening behind the scenes. And regular antivirus doesn't see that. It
Mhm.
doesn't. And so that's why, if your team knows to look for it, that's imperative. But the big thing is, I'm going to get technical for a bit, but I'm not at the same time. Okay. Is it okay if I tell a story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So, what organizations need is a multi-layered approach to cybersecurity. Okay. And that means antivirus is just not enough. And so, one of the big things that we recommend, and we highly suggest that people do this, is endpoint detection and response, and a SOC, a security operations center. And what does that mean in English? It means this: we had an organization in Canada that was hacked. It shut down the whole production line, and it started printing things to the printers. And the computer said, hey, you have 72, the computer said you have 72 hours to pay. Right? Or else we're going to sell your information on the dark web. That's a scary place on the internet that no one likes to talk about. So we were able to contain that, clean it up, and that organization decided, yes, we need to take action. We need to put something in. But here's the sad fact that people don't realize: once you get hacked, you think, oh, they'll never come back again. They came back. Okay. The hackers came back and they started going after the accounting system. Now, because we had the security operations center in place, we had notification from our team saying, hey, we've seen thousands of attempts to log into the accounting computer. They're coming for the information. Now, when we got that notification, the human eye couldn't see it, antivirus couldn't see it. We were able to shut it down because the SOC center, the security operations center, said, hey, they're coming in this way. They said, oh, it's coming this way. We shut it down. Now, that was less than 72 hours later.
Mm.
So if you need that, you need organizations need a password management tool. If you're keeping your passwords saved automatically in your computer, that's something you need to change. And if you're, and oftentimes the biggest vulnerability is, hey, let's be honest, how many of us are using the same password? All right.
Mm. Yeah.
And so we use a password management tool to change those passwords, make them complex, and we make sure that we're not storing the passwords in the computer. We keep it in a digital vault, and we have it contained with two-factor authentication.
Mm.
So,
Another question I have for you is because
yep,
I know a lot of they're trying to get away with passwords because of this problem that you were talking about. That passwords can easily be discovered, and so now they're using like what kind of device is this device registered to you and verified by biometrics like your face or your voice or your fingerprint
yep,
and or tied to your social media or Google or whatever. How much
yep.
safer are those compared to traditional methods?
You can't always put your trust in that and your faith in that,
Mm,
because with AI, that can be impersonated. And if
mm,
they get into your email, they got keys to the kingdom. So I want to back up and just add another thing on top of that.
mm,
When we're talking about emails, we need to have monitoring on the emails, notifying, hey, did somebody try to get in my email? We have a municipality that we take care of, quite a few of them,
mhm,
and pharmacies. We had notification this week that there were 5 attempts every hour to get into the mayor's email.
mm. Wow.
Okay. From all parts of the world. I'm sure it was the same guy, but he was just hopping around different places. But if you're not monitoring that, if your provider's not monitoring that, if you don't know, then they could be in for up to, like, remember how I said at the beginning, they're in for up to 120 days. We don't even realize they could be in your email and and you don't even know. So that's why you need to batten down the hatches and secure the perimeters in all places of your digital world. Having two-factor authentication on all those elements is vital and not the same password.
So this is when people are listening to this, they're like, yeah, I'm just a, when you're talking about hack, like the United Care hack or like a government hack. But talk about why no business is too small to be hacked, common misconceptions and how to address them.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you the story about the small business that came into my office before Christmas, and the look on their faces, it looked like they had seen a ghost. They were distraught and they thought, "Hey, I'll never get hacked." In
Mhm,
fact, they refused. They didn't think that it would ever happen to them, but they lost $30,000,
mhm, mhm,
and they're just a two-person operation, but they lost $30,000. So it's Russian roulette, if for lack of a better word, that the hacker's job, they don't care who they're going after. So they don't care if you're just one small. You're not too small to get hacked, but you may be too small to make the news, is the phrase I like to say.
mm,
They're not gonna you're not gonna hear on the news that this small two-person operation got hacked. So the lesson there is we're all in this together. So it's our responsibility as a society
mhm,
that I'm going to do my part to take care of my cybersecurity for you, for my vendors. And then I'm seeing now in some of the industries we're serving that the companies are asking their supply chain, hey, what are you doing to manage your cyber risk? Because we're counting on you.
mhm. Yeah. And so you mentioned personnel, they're like they'll have some like sophisticated social engineering scheme where they target and then but what are actionable tips for business leaders, simple steps to improve your cybersecurity today?
Okay, so number one, I do have, if you DM me on Instagram, Brett underscore Gallant, or on LinkedIn, I have a document, 15 ways to prevent a cyber attack. Okay,
Mm,
so that's free. And big thing is if you haven't put implemented cybersecurity awareness training, you need to do that.
mhm,
If you have not done two-factor authentication on your email, you need to do that. Invest in a password management tool. We recommend Keeper. There's countless other great tools. Make sure you have a backup and it's verified and it's backed up on offsite and it's secured and encrypted and it's tested. A backup without testing is just a wish and a dream. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen that happen.
mhm, mhm,
Um, I'm trying to think of other low hanging fruit that would really help your audience. The endpoint detection response and MDR managed detection response, if you can do it. But the biggest thing, if those are easy ones, the other thing is uh, having a cybersecurity risk assessment done by a professional to analyze what you have for your cyber risk is important. The other thing too is getting into just talking about assets and computers. If your computers are outdated and they're older systems, and we're dealing right now, we have Windows 10, but that's going to be end of life this year. Making sure you have a plan to upgrade your computers to Windows 11 before the end of the year is imperative. So you're getting all the security updates. So you're patching your computers, getting those updates. And the other one that's often neglected, in a lot of our companies, we have vendors that come in and remote into our systems to support us.
mhm,
Make sure that they have their remote tools secured. Remember that example I told you about the production line being hacked? That's how they got in. That they came in through that because it was not secure.
oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah. Here's a question from the audience is which is safer, 2FA or SMS?
I recommend MFA, the 2FA,
Yeah.
but SMS is better than nothing.
Mm, interesting.
Uh, I like using a passphrase when possible with 2FA. So when I'm using my password manager, I
Mhm.
have all of my secure passwords in there encrypted, but I use a passphrase with MFA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And the passphrase with 2FA is that's how do you because a lot of people they have Google Authenticator or other things because there's like SIM hijacking is what I've heard.
Yeah.
But how do you incorporate passphrase with 2FA?
So what I do is I recommend you pick 4 words, and there's a website called Use a Passphrase, so you can test to see how
Mhm,
secure your password is. If
mhm,
you use a lot of people will use passwords like password with an exclamation point and changing the O to a 0. That
mhm,
can be hacked within a day, with 2 hours. But if
mhm,
you use a passphrase
mhm, mhm,
and you say 4 words, like something that you can remember,
mhm,
everyone loves to play Donkey Kong. That was like 6 or 7 words. But if you look at that and you use it as an example and use a passphrase, you would see that password would take 700 centuries for a hacker to decrypt. So,
mm. Passphrase, interesting.
yeah,
What,
passphrase is key for your digital vault, your digital kingdom.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. What programs are good for, the follow-up from the is what programs are good for creating passphrases as opposed to passwords?
So I think of something I can remember, and
Mhm.
if I want to test it, I actually go to the website called Use a Passphrase and just see if what I'm thinking is secure.
Mm. Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, wow.
So think of like 4 words that you can remember,
Mhm,
but
mhm,
nothing tied to that what you're sharing on social media. If your cat is named Fluffy and you're putting all kinds of posts on social media about Fluffy, don't
mhm.
use Fluffy. So, you know,
Yeah, yeah, interesting.
yeah.
How can people connect with you and learn more from you?
Love to connect. You can always find me on Instagram, Brett_Gallant. LinkedIn, you can find me, Brett Gallant, as well. And will have my website, adaptiveoffice.ca, and would love to connect with you. And obviously, we'll share the 15 ways to help prevent a cyber attack. But there's all kinds of useful information that you can take and know what to be asking your provider.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, excellent.
yeah. Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and expertise, and keep up the great work.
It is a privilege. Thank you. Have an incredible day.